from my perspective, everyone valued me from position one.
Get up early in the morning, have oats, travel in the bus, get up and do martial arts at 4:30 in the morning. Just like sounded like a freaking boot camp, to be fair.
Yeah, no, we were raised to be weapons. What I would tell my 16-year-old self and every 16-year-old athlete, your body's brilliant. It is so resilient. The really lovely way to put it is that I was designed to be a weapon, and I realized I was a human being. And all you were taught to do is just keep copping it on the chin, and that this is just what life is. By 18, I'd had enough. I was done.
It's far greater for a human to care rather than not to care. So you're at the point of not caring about competition, but then you started to care. And how did that affect performance?
Well, I won 2 world titles.
Wandering into areas which I have no experience. So I'll say that right at the top.
Yep.
As a 15, 16-year-old girl in a sport, how do I say this, Tyler? Where your body is on display. I don't know what the question is because I don't want to say something inappropriate.
No. It's a really good topic because, I find it is, not many people talk about it, or people talk about it, but also people don't know how to talk about it. This is something that I think people don't know how to talk about, and talk about it in a way that's actually empowering to young women, especially young women. And
so talk about it for all the young women out there that listen.
So what I would tell my 16-year-old self and every 16-year-old athlete is that your body is brilliant and you have trained it. And if you're in a sport or whatever, your body's brilliant. It is so resilient. It is so, you will only learn and discover as you get older how actually brilliant it is. And how are we talking, and now if we move to a more specific genre of surfing and what's valued in surfing, the stronger and more powerful you are, the bigger your legs, the bigger your quads, the bigger your butt, the more beneficial it actually is. The more powerful you are, the better, generally. And this is what I've found, and this is what was not explained to me. So at 16, you're interpreting a lot of information. In my body, I was probably one of the biggest and the strongest at that time, especially at 16. I was a freak athlete in that case as well, where I could lift a stupid amount of weight.
Really?
And it was funny. My trainer at the time is, again, really young, but he's just like, should we just keep going up until, in a safe capacity? But, I'd get numbers of like almost 200 kilos and 200 kilos of squatting.
Squatting?
Yeah.
200 kilos, so bars 20, 180. Oh,
yeah.
So that's 4 20s and a 5 on either side.
Yeah. So
holy, that's bend your bath top material.
Yeah, no. So
that's Olympic material.
No, and he's like, did you want to look at this? I'm like, no, not at all. But this, I was probably 16, I was probably 18, 19 at that era.
Yeah. And this developed you a strong body, big quads, big glutes.
Big glutes. So my
Power.
body, I was powerful, and I've always been powerful. The only question is how do I control it? It's not appreciated. Even now, no one talks about the fact that the best in the world are probably, in the sense of size and power, 2 of the biggest.
It's a great description.
Yeah.
It's a great description. So, I don't want to delve into personal issues, but give me a brief snapshot of what had happened to your mental health as this young girl that's grown up in a professional environment, been built to do what you're doing.
Yeah. The really lovely way to put it is that I was designed to be a weapon, and I realized I was a human being.
Okay.
And what
that's
that actually
self-aware at 18.
Yeah, and so what that actually means is that I've now lived my life in a way where I've blocked out every emotion. I've copped everything on the chin. I've dealt with everything that I possibly could with the tools that I had at hand. But at the end of the day, I didn't want to keep going. So at that point, it's your mental health so bad that you just end up in a place where you don't want to be here anymore. You think about disappearing. You think about you end up being having an abundance of anxiety, depression and suicidal. And this is I would have had it from 16 to 18.
That's how you felt?
Yeah, that's literally how I felt.
How did the anxiety manifest in your life day to day?
To be honest, I didn't know what it was. I wouldn't have been able to articulate it, but it's just everything. It wasn't that it was too much. It's number 4 in the world, like going for these crazy things, but my life it wasn't really a life. It was in the sense of like none of it, I didn't really have a choice in it. It was just, this is what you're doing. Like, I couldn't go back to school, tried to go back to school, couldn't connect with friends because, the people, my father wouldn't, it's not that he wouldn't allow it, he just, the way he would talk about people my own age, and the way he would talk about siblings that had friends and that would go out and party, and it's like, you don't want to end up like them. You don't want to end up like, I'm like, well, they seem pretty cool. I like them. I actually love them. I think they're great. So you end up in this place where you're so isolated, so by yourself, you have zero ability to articulate because you weren't taught how to express yourself, and you weren't taught to have boundaries, and all you were taught to do is just keep copping it on the chin, and that this is just what life is. And so by 16, when I first got on, by 18, I'd had enough, and I was done.
I was reading about that where you're talking about in 2016. And someone quoted it to you, and you talked about this. It's far greater for a human to care rather than not to care.
Yes.
So I'm going to read that again so people can think about it. It's far greater for a human to care rather than not to care. So you're at the point of not caring about competition.
Yep.
It'll be what it is, and but then you started to care.
Yep.
And how did that affect performance?
Well, I won 2 world titles. But I think I would like to.
Not many people can answer that question with the statement, well, I won 2 world titles. But you did.
I did, yes, I did.
It's not the answer I was expecting, Tyler, but it's pretty succinct and to the point, to be fair.
Yep.
Well, I won 2 world titles.
Well, and I do want to point out that it was the process of me really starting to care about me. And
so not about surfing, about you.
About me and about surfing, but about, for a while you have to understand in the psychology that I was in, caring about things ended up devastating for me. So caring about anything. You
had your bed taken away.
Yeah, literally. Books taken away. Like, I love reading. Like, I've always loved storybooks, just love it. And it is time for me to, and you get in trouble for reading books, but like, that's just escapism. Like, what do you want to escape from? And like, you get berated for these things, and you're like, okay, well, all right. You adapt and you change. But so caring about things was a devastating thing for me. And how they will be, and you kind of get a little bit paranoid too about how things will get used against you. So you kind of bit sus on most things. So again, there's not great foundations for good, healthy psychology.
But you started to care about surfing and yourself, and
I started to care. I started meditating, and I started being around different variations of human beings. And I think that was my first real. I learned about meditation, and it actually came from someone that taught me meditation. And they were like, I was just like, oh, I don't care. I don't give a shit about this. Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, kind of, more punk than I think. But I think now I look back at it, it was just shells on shells on shells on shells. Like, and that's, I think I would have thought that I was a really tough kid and a tough young girl and I had to be, but I'm not. I'm quiet and I'm slow and I like peaceful things, and I like reading books, and I like drinking tea, and and my dream when I retire is to sit by a river for a year. That's it.
So through all this going on, all of a sudden the weapon starts doing what the weapon was designed to do. You start dominating, and you're in France. You make your way through a final, and your main competition, was it Courtney Conlock?
Yeah.
Loses a semi-final,
Yep.
Unbeknownst to you. So you're heading down to the beach. I looked at the pictures last night.
It's funny, huh?
It's great pictures. And it was this massive blonde hair came from nowhere, which I think was Steph Gilmore.
It is, yes.
So tell me that through your eyes.
We came out of, I got second in Portugal and Courtney got first. But I kind of asked my team, I was like, just tell me what I need to do. And they're like, just win.
So you win the event, you'll be the world champion.
Yeah, they're just guaranteed. And like, sometimes things like that make sense in my brain. Like, okay, that makes sense. That's what I'll do. Okay, that's my intent. That's where we're working. Okay, what do I need to do to accomplish that? So when you're in that stage, like I could see the energy shift from everyone. Everyone starts getting all like wiggly. And I'm like, I look at my coach at the time going, we're still on, right? Like we're still going for the win. And he's like, you're going for the win. And so like, he's just like, you're going for the win. I was like, cool. Again, more energy shifting, but I was like, oh, it makes kind of sense. Like the final's coming up and yeah, all right. No, we're fine with that. So I kind of like, I put that to bed before I walked down and I'm like, okay, walk down and like had headphones in. And I was just like, I see the photos now. It looks so staunch, but in that moment, it felt kind of cool. Like I had a whole bunch of security guards around me.
You got a full posse.
Yeah,
and your man like, Fletch from Rip Curl's there. He's never far away.
He's never far away. And I was in my, I think Rip Curl made this like kind of like trench coat. Like it's like this longer coat and it's kind of like staunch. And I think it's really cool. Random just details that I remember. But, and then out of the corner, like you will see my facial expression change half a second before Steph tackles me. And it's actually with the photographer, Corey Wilson, and he's worked for Rip Curl for so long, and we had like, he's the only one that could really, I would be in the most serious situations, but the only one that could kind of get me to like smile in a like a very cheeseball way. And so I kind of just like tipped my head to the side a little bit and was like, do like a bit of a frown because I think I just realized what the situation. And then Steph tackled me and she's like, you done it. Like it, like you won, like it's over. Like, and that moment was.
I'm fascinated by what you're about to say more than anything you've spoke about. Like, I want to know what that moment was like for you after everything you've told me and the battles and what is that moment?
It's not as wild as people think. And that was, I think that's what it was kind of like, yes, cool. The job is done. I get to kind of go home now. Like it is done. And like, I think people expected me to be more emotional about it. Again, I think they felt like they were entitled to this massive show of emotion because I don't think I've never been like a super emotional person in front of.
You look more shocked than anything else, to be honest. Looking at the vision.
Yeah.
That's from the externally. I don't know what
you're
feeling.
Yeah, because I think I don't like changing tracks.
So you're still thinking I got to go and surf this final and win it?
Yep. And so when I was like I swore at my coach. I'm like, win. And because once something like that is told to me, it's just like that is just the line. So it was kind of like the shock of doing it before I'd done that. I was just like recalculating, getting my head around it. And so yeah, it's pretty wild. But I think I would look back on that now and I think it was really cool that it was Steph was the one that told me. Because earlier in that year, like a few of the girls knew that there's a lot going on at home. That was a lot gnarlier than I didn't talk about it. And like I had like a no questions, no comment thing. Don't ask me about it. And the WSL, Jessie Miley Dyer and Dave Proden were good friends, but also mentors. And they knew what was going on. So some of the girls knew though. Because I'd been really quiet and there was a moment in Fiji where I lost and I was like, oh, I'm going to go home. And Steph's like, please don't go home. Stay, enjoy. You I think I'd already been in 4 finals by that point, and I just got last in the event. But Steph's like, that's brilliant. And I was like, what do you mean? And she's just like, when the numbers work out, you're dropping a last place, which is 1,000 points. You're not dropping a 5th place, which is 5,000 points. So your gaps are small.
So you can take your worst result and chuck it in the bin.
Chuck it in the bin, and you're only throwing out 1,000 points in you know, 10,000 points is like the full win. So she's like, it's kind of brilliant. And she also kind of talked to me about, she's like, Tyler, you've always been in the World Title Club. She's like, you've always had what it takes. You've always been genuine as well, and you've always been authentic enough in your kind of self. It's just, you just had to get there. You just had to, you know, decide when you wanted to be in it. And so she kind of gave me this talk like 6 months before I won, and then for some reason, again, like my mind, I wanted to win in France. I'd already decided that's where I was going to win for multiple reasons. And so I asked like Jessie, and I probably told her again 6 months before, I was like, look, I'm going to try and win in France. Again, this is wild when you think about the situation is like, you know, she probably wasn't, it was pretty close to 6 months beforehand going, I'm going to win there. Can you please have this made for me? So I actually asked her to make the yellow jersey with my brother's number on it. And so in the final, which I may or may not have been a little bit tipsy, and which I probably shouldn't say that, but it's the truth. Everyone can get over it. And yeah, so I stood up switch foot with my brother's number on it, and
so you surfed in your brother's number, in your brother's jersey, and you surfed goofy as your brother surfs.
Yep.
And you're a natural, so Tyler stood her other way on her board.
Yeah, and that's how
It's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. I think that's pretty staunch. I look back and I'm like, that's pretty funny. It's rogue as, but it's funny as, and so I think that's cool.